Do you think that Keir Starmer or his team have got a women problem, or that the party's got a women problem?
Yes.
What kind of man allows another man to buy his wife clothes?
The conference has just voted against the emblematic policy of your government cutting winter fuel allowance for pensioners. It's been rejected by your own party.
Yeah. Labour isn't Labour anymore.
The reason for which, having long since become patently clear, our Prime Minister is a power-mad maniac.
I met with him for about 18 minutes after 4 years of trying to get a meeting with him just before the election. And the first thing he said to me was, "I've wasted 9 years." And when I questioned what he meant, he said, by not being in power. And I genuinely think that that is his number one goal, and he's achieved it.
The educated, which I instinctively feel includes you, know that politicians will say anything to get into power, and that the second they get into power, literally the moment that they deliver their first speech as Prime Minister of the UK, they again just say what the public wants to hear.
You have given us a clear mandate, and we will use it to deliver change, to restore service and respect to politics, end the era of noisy performance, tread more lightly on your lives, and unite our country. If we are privileged to come in to serve our country, it will be public service for me, as it always has been, not self-entitlement.
It's very important to me that the rules are followed. I've always said that. I said that before the election. I've reinforced it after the election.
Politicians aren't legally bound by their manifesto promises, and in any event, we often find that what they don't say in regard to a given pledge is just as important as what they do say. Absana Begum, Richard Bergen, Ian Byrne, Imran Hussain, Rebecca Long-Bailey, John McDonnell, Zara Sultana. These are 7 Labour MPs that you won't see in Parliament again until early 2025, and here is why.
Within a fortnight in office, Sir Keir Starmer faced his first political rebellion. 7 of his MPs voted against him for not scrapping the 2-child benefit cap in the King's speech. His response? Starmer suspended the MPs for 6 months.
I received an email last night after the vote on Amendment D, which was to scrap the 2-child benefit cap, and it said that I was now suspended for taking that action of voting for that amendment.
Sir Keir Starmer is by no means the first Prime Minister to discipline dissenting government ministers in this way. No previous Prime Minister has felt the need to take such drastic action a mere 2 weeks into his or her premiership, though, as far as I'm aware. Retaining an existing policy like the 2-child benefit cap is one thing. Choosing to literally freeze the elderly out by taking away their winter fuel allowance with no more than about 3 months' notice before the coming winter season is another entirely. Labour are scrapping a Labour policy. They are the ones who introduced winter payments for fuel for pensioners when they came to power under Tony Blair in 1997. While being critical of the government's decision to end winter fuel payments for pensioners, Sky News described that policy as something of a flagship Labour policy, as if it was something for Labour to be proud of. The conference has just voted against the emblematic policy of your government cutting winter fuel allowance for pensioners. I'll stress, though, that Sky News thoroughly condemned this decision of the government. And it's not just Labour, it's the country that's not with you on this policy. It's bad politics.
Well, I do understand why people are concerned about it.
No, Prime Minister, people aren't concerned about it. They are absolutely fuming about it.
I want to introduce you to Chrissy. She's a pensioner. She's about to lose her winter fuel allowance. She has arthritis. She estimates her fuel bills are about to go up by £40 a month because she does not feel she's going to be able to put the heating on. She voted for you, but she feels let down.
Yeah, I'm 99.9% certain that feeling let down is polite daytime TV speak for absolutely fuming. Prime Minister, could your decision to scrap winter fuel payments for pensioners be anything to do with, say, a hole in the country's finances in the amount of £22 billion, no less, caused by the previous government? Or at least, is that what you're claiming as your excuse?
We inherited a £22 billion black hole. That's money that was off the books that the last government hid from the public.
Ah, well, since we're obviously just going to accept your words as truth, it wouldn't be right for us to expect you to apologise for the steps that you're taking to clean up a Tory mess. Isn't that right?
The people who should be saying sorry are the last government
who left a hole of £22 billion.
I know I just said, Prime Minister, that we should of course accept what you've told us about the hole in the public purse as 100% accurate and factual, but can we have a quick look at the books, please, just so that we can be even more confident when we tell others that what you've told us is the truth?
This black hole, they arrived and within 3 weeks they gave 22% to junior doctors, they gave 15% to ASLEF train drivers. Do you know how much they'll save for the winter fuel cut? Dave, do you know how much?
I think it's 1.3 billion.
1.3 billion, but they spent 11 billion giving massive pay rises out.
Oh, nice try, Mr. Kyle. We're not stupid, you know. If what you've just said is true, then that means that the government has lied to us. Oh, as if the government would do any such thing. As if any individual politician would tell barefaced lies to its electorate.
The first thing we did, the first thing the Chancellor did when she walked through the door next door was to audit the books. What she found was a £22 billion black hole this year. Now, she had a choice, pretend it isn't there, walk past it, or deal with it.
Now, I just want to
deal with it.
I just want to stop you there. I just want to stop you there. On that 22 billion, I want everybody watching this to know and understand that nearly half of that 22 billion, £9 billion, comes from decisions that your government has made to give many public sector workers pay rises above inflation, including junior doctors getting 22% of an increase over 2 years. So again, when it comes to winter fuel allowance, that was a choice. It was a political decision.
The Prime Minister's defence against this point, which is again that it all goes back to the decision making done by the previous government, doesn't alter the fact that, as the interviewer points out, the new government, led by Mr Starmer, had the choice to make the decision that they made.
Keir Starmer has accepted £107,000 in freebies from the likes of Lord Wahid Ali. The party's accepted millions from the offshore billionaires. He's stayed rent-free, apparently, in Lord Ali's £18 million flat.
What kind of man allows another man to buy his wife clothes? And he accepted £2,500 worth of spectacles whilst earning £167,000 as a Prime Minister and is rumoured to have a property portfolio worth millions. Well, that's way more than most. Surely the Starmers can also afford to buy their own clothes. He's also got a massive pension.
A man with a pension so gold-plated that the House of Commons legislated for it individually. There was a statutory instrument laid during the coalition years entitled the Pension of Mr Keir Starmer. I mean, that's how much cash this guy has, and yet he's accepting gifts.
And as you might imagine, the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, a man with nothing but respect and goodwill for his electorate, you know, the ones who voted him into power with an overwhelming majority, behaved with humility and understanding on every single occasion when he was challenged over so-called freeby-gate.
During the general election, you campaigned on a message of change, of doing politics differently and making yours a government of service. And yet you find yourself caught in a row over the huge amount of freebies you've accepted while leader of the opposition, £107,000, far more than any other MP. Do you acknowledge that this has undermined your message and reputation, and are you sorry about that?
Well, I think it's important just to put it in its context. Any gift or donation to a politician has to be declared. Everything I've had has been declared. And sitting behind the numbers, there's some human explanations. So quite a lot of that money was for tickets for football matches. I pay for my own tickets at Arsenal. I've got season tickets. Unfortunately, I can't sit in the stand anymore for security reasons. And the club have said, well, in which case, be our guest in the director's box.
All well and good, Prime Minister, only that's not what the interviewer asked you. She didn't ask you for an explanation of your acceptance of gifts, you see. Her question, rather, is whether, in your opinion, accepting high-value gifts and donations, whose cost you can easily meet with your own means, makes you look not like a Prime Minister who is committed to serving his country, but like a Prime Minister who is committed to serving himself. Keep in mind, Mr Starmer, that the gifts that you've received include not only the footy tickets that you've just told us about, but also the use of a Labour peer's luxury penthouse free of charge, free tickets to a pop concert, a Taylor Swift concert, £20,000 worth of free clothes for your wife, again from a Labour peer, Lord Ali, and none other than £2,000 worth of free spectacles. I'll also mention at this point that all these gifts became known shortly after your decision to scrap the scheme of winter fuel payments for pensioners. Later in this interview, the interviewer makes this very point herself. Prime Minister, in less than 6 weeks of your premiership, the public came to see you not as a Prime Minister of honest principles, but as a two-faced, backstabbing rich man scrounger. What is your answer to that?
Behind some of these numbers is a human story, and it's all important sometimes just to explain what the story is.
But I want to go back to the framing of it, which is you have said that we are all in this together. You said in your speech yesterday it's a shared struggle, a project that says to everyone this will be tough. To coin a phrase, we're all in it together. And for some of it, whether you like it or not, it will look to some people that we're not all in it together, that because of your position, you get privilege and freebies that other people don't have access to. Take GCSEs. There will be some people that would also want a private place, have a different environment where they would like their child to go so they could have a better opportunity. Do you see how it looks to some people that there's one rule for you in terms of being able to claim this stuff that other people don't have access to?
Well, I think that's why the rules are there, to declare it. But look, every day...
Do you get it, though?
Every day...
Do you get how it looks?
If you're putting to me, Beth, that I should have stayed in my Kentish Town home and disrupted my son's GCSEs, that was the right thing to do, then I think you should put that to me. I think you should put that to me.
So, not only does the UK have a two-faced, backstabbing, self-serving PM, we also have a PM who's a complete coward. Fathers defend their sons, not the other way round, especially when that son is only 16. Saying that your son, who isn't even there, should defend you, Mr. Starmer, is what makes you a coward. It also looks bad on you, Mr. Starmer, to disingenuously act as if you can't see what's wrong. I don't think anyone can criticise you for making use of alternative accommodation, the luxury penthouse that Lord Ali let you and your family stay in, to enable your son to sit his GCSEs in peace rather than having to fight through journalists and protesters every time he left the home or came back. What people do object to is the fact that you got it for free. The way that makes you look to the public having already been explained to you by the interviewer. Interviewer, do you want one more chance to try to make the Prime Minister see things from the viewpoint of the electorate?
But improve living standards. I've got a mandate to improve the health service.
I'm trying to talk to you about the optics of it, Prime Minister. If I go back to what you claimed in opposition, 4,500 on holiday accommodation, 16,000 on clothing, nearly £3,000 on glasses, over £35,000 in football, concert tickets, rugby, the races, over £17,000. There might be human reasons for it, but do you understand the optics of it when you are the Prime Minister that said you were going to do politics differently? It looks like you're claiming loads of freebies.
Well,
do you get it, even if you don't agree with it?
I've given you my explanation, and I can't improve on that. If people think that my decision to try and protect my son's GCSEs was the wrong one, they're free to do so.
There's lots of other things in that, but it's not about your son.
If people feel that I should insist on sitting in the stands at Arsenal, notwithstanding the cost to other people.
The clothes, the concert tickets, there's other things in that.
Well, on the clothes, I mean, look, in the general election campaign, we're busy, and lots of people want to help, and in this particular instance said, well, I can help with sorting out some clothes.
What do you mean by sorting out some clothes, Prime Minister? Folding them? Laundering them? Ironing them? Seriously, call me cynical, but if you're saying that due to the very hectic and very busy schedule that one follows when one is running for Prime Minister, you couldn't think straight for long enough to say no to the offer of free clothes, I don't quite buy that myself. Interviewer, you tried your best.
You've decided to repay £6,000 worth of gifts. Why now? Why those gifts and not all of them? Have you decided it was wrong to take them, or did you come under pressure?
Look, we came in as a government of change. We are now going to bring forward principles for donations, because until now politicians have used their best individual judgment on a case-by-case basis. I think we need some principles of general application.
For crying out loud, Prime Minister, the damage is done. Can you really not see that?
No, Tom, in point of view, says, sorry, Jez, just because Sir Keir has paid £6,000 back doesn't make it right. He's only paying it back because the bugger got caught red-handed, isn't
Well,
it?
also, he's admitting it's wrong, isn't
Yes.
it? So why is he only paying that much back? Why is he not paying all the rest of it back?
What about the money from before?
What about the money from 2019?
Are we implying that it's only bad because he was Prime Minister, because he's only giving it back?
Possibly
from
so.
that? Right.
Possibly so.
And believe me, Prime Minister, rabid right-wingers aren't the only ones who are asking these questions. Prime Minister, are 1. the arguably treacherous decision-making that you've so far enacted, and 2. the exposing of your arguably less than honest behaviour, things that you're actively and willingly facilitating in this beginning stage of your premiership as part of a cunning, longer-term political game plan?
The argument that seems to be forthcoming for some of those obvious failures that we've seen, and I'm thinking about fuel duty and stuff like that, but the argument is that, look, the bad stuff, they get it out the way early doors, whether it's this budget that's coming, which is not going to be pretty, whether it's the aforementioned winter fuel allowance. In 5 years' time, everyone would have moved on from there. That's the theory, that you get it all out the way and then he can do the good stuff. I can't imagine what the good stuff is.
Just a thought. Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Rosie Duffield MP is a solid example of someone who couldn't be any less right-wing, who hates you.
Let's talk to Rosie Duffield now, talking about her all morning, MP for Canterbury Whitstable, and the villagers who has just resigned, the Labour whip. She therefore becomes, we think, the fastest resigning MP after a general election, certainly in modern political history, writing that excoriating letter about and to Keir Starmer. Rosie Duffield, thanks so much for joining us this morning. Why now?
I think just the sleaze stories every single day, but married with the cuts to people on a fraction of what MPs earn, those two things just cannot go together, in my view, as a Labour government.
Can it really be stuff about freebies and tickets and so on that would force you to resign the Labour whip so soon?
Yeah, it was the final straw for me. I think we've always held ourselves up as better than that. The public expect us and hold us to those standards of public life. Keir Starmer made such great, a thing about country before party, and we are the party of service, in whose service is taking £32,000 worth of clothes whilst cutting the winter fuel allowance to people who are earning £12,000 or £13,000 a year. It's not good enough. It's not okay. We promised to do better and be better than the sleaze we saw from Boris Johnson and the corrupt PPE contracts. But here we are doing something that looks and sounds pretty similar, and there are stories coming out every day because these things were not declared in the way that they should be. Why is anybody earning the amount of money that Keir Starmer earned as the leader of the opposition taking £32,000 worth of clothes from somebody? He has never directly answered that question, when most people in this country, most people don't earn that money per year, and we're cutting benefits for people who earn half that. It's not okay for a Labour government, a socialist democratic party, to behave in that way. It just smacks of greed.
Why did you not feel able to continue the fight from the inside?
Because I've been trying to fight from the inside in various ways for 7 years. I'm done. I'm only one person, and I've had very little support over my other issues. And Keir has made very, very clear he's not interested in the views of the backbenchers who didn't support these measures about the 2-child limit. The only feedback we got was, if you rebel against us, you're gone anyway. So there is no negotiation, there is no discussion. He has no interest in the views of backbench MPs. There's no fight on the inside. That's it's the kind of thing people say, and I really admire my colleagues who have stayed to make those arguments, but they're not getting very far, are they?
Well, I don't know about you, but so far I'm finding these disclosures from the Right Honourable Lady totally unsurprising. The UK is being led by a self-serving, power-hungry tyrant.
I don't like the sort of shift towards the right that we've made. We're sticking with the same Tory policies that we fought against in the case of 2-child limit for 8 years.
I'll just quickly jump in here to make a very important point. Appointed to the role of Chief of Staff to the Labour Party on the 4th of September 2023, Sue Gray, a former civil servant, ended up earning more than the Prime Minister himself when the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, became Prime Minister, of course. Now, if that isn't proof that Labour is anything but anti-women, I don't know what is.
Do you think that Keir Starmer or his team have got a women problem, or that the party's got a women problem?
Yes.
Elaborate for listeners what you mean by that.
The people that make the decisions, the people that are on the very inner circle, the influential staff, are the same bunch of young men. And, you know,
Sue Gray's pretty influential. I mean, she's the chief of staff.
That's true, but you can see that she's having a fight with those young men.
Oh, don't talk nonsense. There's absolutely no truth to that. Is there, Prime Minister?
And just on Sue Gray, on her position, casement has apparently been causing divisions. Can you offer some clarity on that?
Yeah, that's complete nonsense. So I hope that's clear enough.
See?
We've got this story about the fact that Sue Gray has gone, replaced by a man, we understand, as Keir Starmer's Chief of Staff. Previously, Rosie Duffield resigned as a Labour MP, although she remains an MP, was asked whether he has a woman problem and confirmed that she believed there was an issue there. And we have this story in the Times this morning. Another senior figure said that the treatment of Sue Gray by staff in Number 10 had resulted in at least one senior woman deciding not to apply for the job of Cabinet Secretary.
Oh.
You can see that she's having a fight with those young men. I mean, we all call them the lads, and they are very influential. And in particular issues that I've been involved in, they have been the ones behind the complaints and behind the smear campaigns. I know that I've been briefed against multiple times. Other women MPs are briefed against as well. I'm sure it happens to men, but yeah, women in the Labour Party know that there's a problem.
Releasing even violent offenders early as part of the stupid early prisoner release scheme, including one offender who, about 2 days after his release, went and battered a woman whose previous battering from him is what got him banged up in the first place. And at the same time as the government's running this early prisoner release scheme, they're sending people to prison for making social media posts during the time of the summer riots of 2024 that apparently stood as acts of incitement of racial hatred or incitement of violence or incitement of other crimes, but which in fact led to no known harm. So, arguable two-tier policing, two-tier criminal justice and two-tier Keir. Losing the country £1 billion investments, DP World.
But then came the bombshell. DP World, a significant investor, decided to pull out a staggering $1 billion from the UK. And why? Apparently because of comments made by Starmer's deputy.
Nanny State UK, the government wanting to ban smoking in pub gardens and proposing to give so-called fat jabs to those who were out of work specifically because of their excess weight. Ditching the Rwanda scheme, but so far offering no alternative for getting rid of illegal immigrants. Happily giving British territory away and doing so without consulting Parliament. Now, this particular governmental decision serves, I feel, as a classic example of governmental abuse of power coming from a non-separation of constitutional powers, the executive and the legislature, but not the judiciary, basically being, as at the time of this recording, one and the same. But I think we can all agree that by far the most significant of the Prime Minister's numerous egregious missteps to date has got to be the following.
I call again for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. The return of the sausages. The hostages.
If you've enjoyed this video, I recommend you to watch this one next. I'll meet you there.